Hi folks, so what we're looking at here is an East Coast Railways model of a flat car. Now I don't know if you can tell from there, but put that on there, it's bent to say the least, bowed up in the middle here. Now I don't know if they're all like that. I bought two and they're both like that. What I'm going to do is show you how to take that bow, if you like to call it that, out of the bed of the wagon, and it should end up something like this. This is before and this is after. Now I think you can buy them with these stanchions fitted and with ties to hold your load down. But if you just want the kind of basic model, this is what you get. And they are only about 20 quid each. Now, at G scale, you're not going to get anything as cheap as that. You get what you pay for. Okay, they look alright. You know, there's detail on them, etc. So yeah, they look okay. But they're not quite the same quality, obviously, as something more expensive like Bachmann or something like that. As I say, you get what you pay for. They come in 45mm gauge only. I'm on 32mm, so I'll show you how to re-gauge them to 32mm as well. I'll just show you the whole thing, just what I did to make it more presentable. Bit of weathering, a load. These are just lollipop sticks or popsicle sticks if you're depending on what side of the pond you're on. A bit of weathering, etc. Just makes it a little bit more believable. Totally different couplings, buffers, because I use three link couplings. So yeah, I'll show you what to do. So first thing I did anyway was to remove the bogies, and if you see, they're just held on by a screw here, and obviously the same on that bogie, and that obviously lets you get access to the wheels and axles to change them to 32mm gauge. Okay, so once you've removed the bogies, it looks something like that. They're upside down. This is upside down, obviously. What you want to do then is take the wheel sets out of the frames. They just basically just pull on the frame, and the one side pops out, the other side pops out. Same with that one, and you end up with your wheels out of the bogie like that. Now hopefully you can see that the wheel and this sleeve are all one moulding, and the same on the other side. And as you can see, you've got the metal axle running through the middle, and they look like that when you first take them out, because that's 45mm gauge. But what you're going to have to do if you want to change to 32mm gauge is pull the wheels apart, and the sleeve just slides along the axle until the wheels come completely off the axle. Something like that. Now, because you're going to make them into 32mm, what you're going to have to do is take a little bit, say, I don't know, 10mm or something like that, off of each sleeve, so that when you put the wheels back on the axle, you can go to the narrower gauge of 32mm. Now, another problem I found, the flanges are quite deep on the wheels. Now, this track here is Cliff Barker track. It's actually a lower profile rail than Peco. However, just because of the design of the chairs, when you run the, if you can see that, when you run the wheel along there, it doesn't hit the chairs or anything like that, it's fine. As soon as you get to the Peco track, you hear that, it hits the chairs. Just because of the design of it. So, what you want to do there is put the sleeve into the chuck of a drill, electric drill, battery powered drill, whatever you want, and then using one of these, a file, not too rough probably, but this is a second cut. So then what you'd do is you'd spin the wheel and hold the file against the flange to get a lower profile flange. And well, it doesn't take a lot, to be honest, but you'll be able to gauge it yourself if you need to do this. As I say, the problem only occurs on the Peco track. Cliff Barker track's okay, but you're obviously going to have a problem, or maybe have a problem, going through the frog of a point, if it's a Peco point, because obviously they've got the same chairs, etc. So yeah, that's how you get around that one. So you need to do that. If you've got Peco track, you probably need to do that with all of your wheels. So once you've cut a bit off of the sleeve, which is here, that sleeve is obviously now shorter, so you can make it 32mm gauge. Keep this, because that is then going to have to go on the outside of the wheel, on the axle here. Otherwise you'll have too much play in the wheels, and the axle actually falls out of the axle boxes, so keep this bit. I don't know if this is going to work because the file will probably fly off of here, but basically to lower the profile of the flange, you're going to put the flange onto the file like that. The sleeve is in the chuck of the drill. Yes, also not going to work. So you're just going to basically, and the flange will wear down to a lower profile. But it's a bit difficult to show you, obviously holding the phone at the same time. The flange is a bit thick as well, so when you go through the guardrail here, or the check rail, whatever you want to call it, it's quite tight. Be the same going through the frog. It does go through, but there's not much leeway. So the other thing I did was something to point with. The back of the flange here, you can hold that against the file while it's in the drill, and just make the flange, you know, a bit thinner. As you can see, it's fairly fairly thick, so yeah, it could come down a bit, won't do any harm. So what you want to end up with is something like that. That's what it looked like before, like that, and that's what it looks like now. So you can see the difference there. It's 32mm now, and the offcuts of the sleeve from the middle are now on the outside of the wheels. And as you can see, try and get to work here, it goes through the points, no problem. It goes through the frog, no problem. And that's what you're trying to achieve. That can now be fitted back in to the bogie. I'll obviously have to do the same to this one to make it 32mm gauge, and put the offcuts of the sleeves on the outside to stop all the play inside the frames of the bogie. But we're getting there. So once you've fitted the wheels back into the bogie, this is what you've got. It goes through the points, etc., and round the Pico track, no problem. And obviously you want to do that to both bogies. So how do we get rid of this curve? As I showed you before, it's really badly curved. There's probably a couple of options. If you look underneath, there's quite a lot of detail under there. Beams and bracing and all that stuff. Because my first thought was to put something underneath, a metal strip or wood, and then screw the deck down onto that to flatten it out. But there's a lot, as I say, there's all that detail under there, so that'd be quite difficult. So what I did, I got a piece of wood like that, but more like that length, and put it on there, and from underneath I drilled some holes and put a screw through into the wood at that end and into the wood at focus and at that end, and that got rid of this curve, and it made it flat like that one. Now it's obviously got a large piece of wood on top of it now, on top of the bed, and that is in there. There's actually two pieces in there, so I just built the popsicle sticks or ice lolly sticks round about that, and on the end here these are just short pieces. They're not full length, they're only, I don't know, 10mm long or something like that, all glued together and stacked up just to give the effect that the planks run all the way through. So you can do that. There's other options, I suppose. You can have larger pieces of wood than ice lolly sticks. I've got a piece of wood here because it's quite a bit more substantial, so you can do it with that. They glue lots of them together and you can almost actually do away with the really big piece of wood, because if you glue lots of them together, you know, it becomes essentially one piece of wood then, and you can just screw that onto the bed of the flat wagon, and the strength of it all glued together would take the bend out of the bed of the wagon, just the same as what's happened to that one really. So once you've got that piece of wood screwed onto the top to take the curve or bend out of the wagon. This is the underneath side of the wagon, or car, whatever you want to call it. Now because you've reduced the gauge, you put this bogie back on here and it will, the inside of the wheels will foul these parts here. So what I did was I just removed them, and the plastic's fairly brittle and soft, so what I did was I just used these snips designed for cutting rails, and I just put them in there like that and took little snips out at a time, work my way along on all four pieces. You'll need to come back so far, maybe about to there, and that way the wheels don't foul these. And obviously you do on there as well when you fit the other bogie on. So at that stage you've flattened out the bend in the wagon, or the bow, or whatever you want to call it, and you've fitted the bogies back on, having taken these parts away. Now it's up to yourself, you can keep these couplings if you want. I don't particularly like them. So what I did was I snipped it off by here and by there, and that totally gets rid of this D shape. And you're left then with, and if you can see it, about that flat surface in there. It's got kind of a little dimple in it, I don't know, it's just a moulding mark. And then these buffers, if you look, this bit here squeezes together, and the buffer, etc., just slides out, and the buffer is then free of the wagon. I then took a saw, a razor saw, and cut it across here. Yeah, so this bit is flat, and just discarded the rest. Then I glued this part on to there. Yeah, so you don't have this D ring, glued it onto there. Drilled a small hole here and put a small wood screw in, like that, to put the 3-link coupling on. And you can see there where the glue is, so that's just glued onto that part there. Oh, there's a gnome. Obviously do that in both bogies. You don't have to, as I say, you can use these couplings if you want, but I don't like them. Then, as I say, you could do a load like that. You could do pipes, I suppose, metal pipes, and put screws in underneath into the pipes, nuts and bolts maybe. The whole idea is just to get rid of this curve and make it flat. Now these stanchions, as I say, you can buy these wagons with these fitted, or that you can fit onto them, they supply them. But I just used some PVC angle that I had. This stuff here, I think you use it for the edges of tiles. Just cut that into the lengths you require, and then in these parts here, they just fit down into there. You might need to file a bit off, just fit down into there, and just glued them in. Now these tie downs here, get something to point with because it keeps going out of focus. Yeah, so these here are just what people with long hair use to tie back their long hair. And let's see if we can get in there. This here is just a hook made out of stiff wire, and it just hooks underneath there, and it looks like it's holding the load down, but really the load is all glued down. So ultimately you've got a permanent load on there, but I don't find that's a problem, because that's what I've modelled, and that's it. It can run around my railway quite nicely like that. Looks like it's all planks of wood that have come out of a sawmill going somewhere. As I say, you can see I'm weathered the wagon just to make it look a bit more realistic. And I just use this acrylic, umbrella acrylic. This is number 62 there. That's a great colour. I think that did all the rails and that just looks, to me, it looks like rust. It's what I would imagine a rusty colour to look like, or weathering, or something like that. So yeah, so hopefully, as I say, if you do all that, then you end up with something like that. Obviously, if you're on 45mm gauge anyway, you won't need to re-gauge. But to me, you'd have to find some way of taking this curve, this bend out of the wagon. As I say, I think it's just, you get what you pay for. It's not the best of plastic. It's a bit lightweight, etc. At least once you've done that, there's a good lot of weight in that wagon, which gives it stability. Crashing into things, it gives it a lot of stability, so it was just to say, you don't have to do all that if you don't want to, but it's what I did. I just thought I'd tell you how I did it, just in case you do want to do that. Well, that's that then. Thanks for tuning in, folks. See you in the next time.